Hello hobby friends, I'm Jason and today I'm going to show you how to paint Space Wolves for your Age of Darkness Legion, right here on Level Up Hobbies. Let's get painting. Okay, here is our Space Wolf, and to begin with we're going to start priming the model black. I use Stynylrez Black Primer on this stage here, but you can use any primer of your choice. And really for most of my models I will start with a black canvas and just build my layers up from that. I like how it tones down those colors. If you're wanting a more vibrant color, brighter colors, start with either a gray or a white tone, and that will help those colors pop more. But for most of my objectives here for my painting, I like those colors to be toned down a bit, so we'll go with black here. All right, and now for the first color of the armor, I'm going to use Sombre Gray from Vallejo Game Air. And I'm going to apply this using a dry brush, a medium dry brush here, but I'm not going to be dry brushing it. I'm using a technique called scrumbling. And for this, you just kind of push the paint on. You want to dip it in your paint, get the bristles a little wet, wipe a little bit of it off, not as much as you would a dry brush, because you do want it to be wet, not a dry brush. So you're just going to dab and push and just kind of grind it on all over the model. Doing this will apply paint to those raised surfaces and then leave the lower surfaces unpainted. If you push really hard, the paint will get down into those recesses. We don't want that. But we don't need as clean of an application as we get from dry brushing. So go ahead and just apply this over the entire model, all of the armor. If it gets on other bits, don't worry about it. You can fix those later. Okay, next I do approximately a 50-50 mix of the somber gray and a medium neutral gray. I used a Pro Acryl brand, but you can use anything for this. But yeah, so a 50-50 mix, and then again, I'm just doing that scrumbling. I'm trying to stay a little bit higher on those surfaces, so I still have that somber gray on like the undersides and moving up, but then the upper surfaces are just going to have this mix. And then again, you want to cover as much as you want, make sure it's looking good. This will lighten up that somber gray and really start to bring that neutral stone gray color to the armor. Okay, I swear this is the last color we're going to put on this armor here. And this is a 50-50 mix of Vallejo Game Color Ghost Gray and then that same neutral gray that we just used. A good comparison for this neutral gray would be either a Mechanicus standard gray or Dawnstone, something like that is comparable. But yeah, so same thing, just mix it up, just scrumble it on with your brush. Don't worry about being pretty with it. You kind of want this weathered look, and don't put as much effort into this as with those other two layers, because you do just want this to be kind of more of an upper surface color. I think I put a little bit too much like on those legs. I would have liked a little bit more transition than what I ended up with, but in the end the model turned out pretty good, so I'm happy with my results here. And now we start moving on and painting some of the trim on this armor. For this I'm using Pro Acryl's Light Bronze. A GW equivalent of this color would be like Canoptic Alloy, but I think the Pro Acryl has a little bit better coverage without putting down a base color. But other than that, paint this on the trim. I picked out, the trim on the pauldrons, the chest plate, and then also on his power pack. I picked out some details on that to paint this color. Turned out really good, and I think This color works a lot better with the gray than a brighter gold does. So this is more of a subdued color, and it really goes along with that stone gray color. I prepped the fur on his shoulder pauldron with some Zandri Dust by Citadel, and then I just make sure that this has a nice even coat over all of the fur. Once that's dry, I just paint on some Citadel's GoreGrunta Fur contrast paint. And I paint this just on the fur, leaving the exposed hide part, just the standard Zandri Dust. And on the right pauldron, I have a wolf skull, which I am actually using for the Legion designation instead of the actual Legion heraldry. Just kind of a play on it. Painting this red, and I believe this was a Khorne red, and I will shade and then highlight this up from here. And next I take some Agrax Earthshade and I use it to tone the bronze bits here, the fur, and then also that red skull. And now here I take a little bit of Cadian Fleshtone and mix it with the Khorne red to make a highlight for this skull. I just kind of just sketch in the highlights on the raised surfaces and just build up that highlight until I'm happy with it. And now his bolt gun gets a nice coat of Corvus Black. I paint everything on the gun the same color. I want it to be just kind of that monochromatic black color. And then when that's dry, I go ahead and give it just an edge highlight of the same somber gray that I used as the base color for the armor. Now let's jump back and paint the head. So for this, I used a base of Cadian Fleshtone. Make sure you thin this out and just build this up in layers. You don't have to rush it. Otherwise, it'll just get real chunky and it'll kill those details. I then follow that up with a thin down wash of Gilliman contrast paint. Now I thin this down because this is actually a pretty strong color to be painting over the Cadian Fleshtone, and I don't want this contrast to just take over. I go in and I start painting his hair using Skrag Brown. Then I'll give it a wash of Agrax Earthshade, and then I'll highlight that up using Skrag Brown and Cadian Fleshtone. Now you can see I use these colors because my guy has a pretty strong case of gingivitis. Now I move back to the face and I start highlighting up, going back to that original Cadian Fleshtone. I thin this down a little bit and just get a little bit on a nice sharp tip brush, and I just kind of tap like little dots. I don't like to do solid lines and brush strokes on faces just because they're so small. It can really just smother details. So usually I will just tap, tap, tap and just build up those layers little by little. And when you go back and forth and mix those highlight colors and shadows, it really starts to develop a nice skin tone that isn't just one flat color. Just like here, I mix Flayed Flesh with the Cadian Fleshtone and just kind of go back and forth building up these highlights. And the last step on the armor is to give it a nice edge highlight using Ghost Gray from Vallejo Game Color. Once this is all completed, I'll give the entire model a spray with some matte varnish just to seal it all in, and then I'll base it. And now a very simple basing for this. I'm just going to coat the base with some Eileen's Tacky Glue, and I'm using some Geek Gaming Scenics Arid Earth. Once this is all dry, I'll brush off the rim of the base and paint it black, and the model is done. And here we have the completed model. Now when I was working this up, I got really worried once I got to brushing on that ghost gray color for the armor. I was really worried that this was going to be way too light for what I was going for. But once I worked up the details and the model came together, I think it really started to show that cold, ice stone, feel of Fenris. And I think it works a little better than, maybe not better, but it's a different take than what GW has done with that really dark gray for their 30K Age of Darkness wolves. But yeah, so I'm very happy with how this turned out, and I would definitely do some units or an army in this scheme. So hopefully you guys enjoyed what you saw here today. Take some of these ideas, change them, switch them up, make them your own, use them for different armies, whatever. Hopefully you get something out of this, other than, even if it's just entertainment. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me today as I painted the Space Wolf for an Age of Darkness Legion. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe down below. And don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I publish new material. Thanks again, and remember, build, paint, and play tabletop games. Later guys.